against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you. Rip and tear until it is done.
Hey, how's it going? I'm back with something a little different and very cathartic, something my therapist tells me is crucial for preparing for my All Manus run. Throughout the Dark Souls franchise, talk of an easy mode is pretty common, typically punctuated with anguished cries of pain from losing to Soldier of Godric and the Song of Controllers shattering. Many have called for an easy mode for any and all titles in the FromSoft catalogue. The general consensus on the Dark Souls trilogy and its separate IPs are that they are too hard in an unfair sense, and giving the player control over the level of unfairness should be a common sense feature. The thing is, with a well-designed and balanced game, you don't need a little slider in the main menu that reduces the damage and health of enemies. When a developer has faith in their players, they know that the players can do that themselves. The absolute best example of this is the sorcery system throughout the series. While not fundamentally overpowered, sorcery is widely recognised as the single easiest way to play the game, entirely due to how players have learnt to use magic in the context of the games. High range and speed, decent damage, and a wide range of sorceries for almost any situation firmly places sorceries as one of the easiest ways to play the game. Note, easiest, not easy. The Souls games are never completely easy, but they provide the tools to the player to make it easy, which in my opinion is far better game design than switching difficulties in Skyrim. Now, the common theme of sorceries in every single Souls game is that there is like a power pyramid of different spells, and as you progress in the game, you unlock better and better spells through bosses, finding them in the world, and sometimes even questlines. What this means is that there is always an apex spell, one so hideously broken that it represents the pure amount of work taken to get there. In Elden Ring, the clear winner is Comet Azure, a spell so absurdly over the top, it's hilarious. In both Dark Souls 2 and 3, that spot is arguably taken by the Crystal Soul Spear, a simple high damage nuke as powerful as it is easy to use. In Dark Souls 1, however, a spell exists that is so inexcusably strong, so hideously powerful, that Comet Azure could never live up to it. The Dark Bead. The Dark Bead, on the surface, seems just like a regular shotgun kind of spell. It fires an array of 7 dark orbs in a spread pattern, each dealing physical and magic damage. The thing is though, this spell does not behave like a typical shotgun. Normally, shotguns are characterized by low damage pellets with high damage when multiple hit. The thing is, the Dark Bead pellets already do fantastic damage for such a quick cast. When you combine this with stat scaling and boosting items, this damage becomes horrific, capable of one-shotting almost every single boss in the game. The fact that it also does physical damage is also not to be underestimated, as it can also stagger enemies that survive the massive hit, further increasing its ability to melt the game. No spell throughout the history of From Software has been as infamous in both PvP and PvE, as well as having such low requirements, bosses aside. As a result, I thought of something funny I could do. Today, I'm going to beat Dark Souls, dealing damage only with the Dark Bead. That obviously sounds pretty dumb on its own, but to truly show the power of this spell, I'm going to complete Dark Souls on New Game 7, the highest possible difficulty, and showcase alongside all the possible sorcery boosting gear, exactly how powerful this spell is. Let's get to it. Now, as you might have guessed, this isn't exactly a challenge video despite the New Game 7 difficulty. As a result, I'm not going to follow the usual format of the videos I make, if you've seen any of them, and instead I'm just going to explain exactly what I use to make this spell horrific. To start off with, I set the game to New Game 7. I know it's kinda surprising, but I actually didn't want to play through this game 6 times for a 10-minute video. With that in mind, let's assume I collected every possible useful item and spell, as well as leveled my character optimally. The Dark Bead is a sorcery, obviously, so the common sense first boost is 60 intelligence, the stat soft cap, as well as the most powerful catalyst, the TCC. This catalyst halves spell uses but dramatically increases spell power, and is the obvious best choice. Next, I take Power Within, a 40% boost to any damage source. Then comes the Crown of Dusk, a 20% boost to damage at the cost of low absorption, but that won't matter for reasons I'll explain in a second. Next, I take the Bellowing Dragon Ring, a flat 20% spell boost as well. Then the last damaging item, the Red Tearstone Ring, for a 50% boost at very low health. That covers all the damage items. Now for the weird stuff. First of all, I carry the Sanctus, a medium shield that very slowly regenerates health. As well as this, I also don't level my health in the slightest, keeping it at the lowest possible stat you can, 8. The reason I did this is because the damage from Power Within scales with your maximum health. It deals 1% of your max health as damage each tick, therefore the lowest max health possible does the lowest amount of damage. Why is this important? Well, the Red Tearstone Ring is also included in this build, an effect that only activates at very low health, creating the danger of dying from the self-damage extremely quickly. This is where the Sanctus comes into play. The regeneration does not scale with health, meaning the lower health you have, the more useful the tiny amount is. The regen can't completely counteract the Power Within damage, but at my low health, it slows it down a ton, giving me a decent window to make use of both Red Tearstone and Power Within. It's also worth keeping in mind that being cursed cuts your max HP in half, making this strategy much more effective. But I forgot about that, so oh well. To put this long-winded explanation into simpler terms, the Dark Bead, an already extremely powerful spell, is scaled optimally, with the most powerful staff, and with a consistent 130% damage boost, if I get the timing right. With all that finally said, this is what it looks like in New Game Plus 7. Now, halftime for a moment. As you can see, the Dark Bead has effectively instantly killed every single boss up to now. Dark Souls physically cannot be any more difficult than this, and it still steamrolls the first half of the game, which I find pretty hilarious. Now, things change a little though. Entering the second half of the game, the health of most bosses skyrockets. This run no longer becomes a one-button win, and instead I actually have to be really lucky, with both the boss moveset and with the timing of Power Within and Red Tearstone. The New Game 7 boss health scaling is just atrociously inflated, and is so wonky in terms of power scaling, that even with the most powerful spell in the game, alongside the most optimal setup, this is what the game looks like. Oh, and also, if you're interested in how odd the coding is for the health scaling, look up Dark Souls inflation. Finally, I arrive at the hardest portion of the game. These bosses are hit the hardest with the New Game 7 scaling, and are now so hideously spongy, the Dark Bead build honestly seems mildly fair. Well, kind of. With just Manus and Calamite left, this run finally becomes mildly difficult. Manus has the single highest health pool in the game, is extremely fast and aggressive, has a second phase that is much harder to dodge, as well as that stupid combo move which is an instant death with my health. And coupling that with the new game scaling makes the Dark Bead feel like a grape flavoured water gun. Unfortunately, this means my build needs to become less optimal. I can't physically kill Manus before the power within damage kills me, and so unfortunately I have to forego it. With a much slower fight than I was aiming for, Manus falls to the real abyss, the Spas 12. Calamite is a somewhat similar issue. He spaces himself too much for me to kill him in time, and so I have to resort to a much slower method as well, unfortunately. It doesn't take too long for the Calamity Dragon to fall, however, and then there was Gwyn. Gwyn trembled in fear of the Dark Souls Second Amendment, but became much less scared when he realised that after 3 years of playing this game, I still can't parry him. I spend way too long trying, and then just give up and obliterate him. With the old king finally fallen, I link the first flame, with the right to bear dark sorcery within my cold, merciless heart. Wow, what a challenge! I have to say, clicking a single button once every 5 minutes was just exhausting, and it really took it out of me to complete this run. In all seriousness though, this is more just for the sake of catharsis. If you enjoy watching pure pain with a side of mental anguish, then you're in the right place. I'm currently in the process of a Manus only run, where every enemy is replaced by Mr. Abyss, the hardest boss himself. I am not entirely sure how long this will take me, but if you enjoyed this video and want to see that one, subscribe and comment how luscious my voice is. Have a good one, and I hope I'll see you somewhat vaguely soon.